Antelope Island was the last expedition within our Geneseo Biodiversity course in Utah under the direction of Dr. Briggs. This is a video commentary discussing this unique place in the world. We will be reviewing the history, geology, and wildlife of Antelope Island, along with the Great Salt Lake. Antelope Island is located within the Great Salt Lake near Salt Lake City, Utah. Artifacts date prehistoric inhabitants over 6,000 years ago. The first modern exploration of the island was directed by John Fremont and Kit Carson in 1845. It was named after the pronghorn antelopes grazing the island. The first permanent structure was built by Fielding Garr on the east side of the island in 1848. He was assigned to the island by the Mormon Church to manage the wildlife on the island. The ranch is located at Garr Springs, one of 40 natural springs on the island. Since that time, the ranch was inhabited continuously until 1981.
Comprised of 28,022 acres, Antelope Island is the largest of 10 islands on the Great Salt Lake. The island measures 15 miles in length with a 4.5-mile width at its widest part. Frary Peak is the highest point on the island at 6,596 feet above sea level. The island is part of a range mountain formation located between the Sierra Nevada and Wasatch Ranges. Antelope Island contains some of the oldest rocks in the world, which are located at the Farmington Canyon Complex. At 2.7 billion years old, the complex is older than the rocks found at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. The Tintic quartzite, colored brown on the map, is abundant in the northern third of the island. It is 550 million years old and was deposited in a shallow marine environment. We spent the last sunset among rocks known as tufa on the northern part of the island. These are the youngest rocks on the island, oftentimes resembling concrete and are oddly shaped. They were deposited by Lake Bonneville only 10,000 to 15,000 years ago. Climate is determined by the amount of precipitation that the area receives, its altitude, and its latitude. Antelope Island is considered a semi-arid region because it receives approximately 6 inches of precipitation annually. Although some of the precipitation comes as snow in the winter months, the rest comes from thunderstorms in the late summer, like the one we experienced. The sudden storm was very short-lived, even though it produced intense wind and rain. This sort of climate determines the wildlife found on the island. Although Antelope Island seems fairly desolate, it actually has an abundance of wildlife. These inhabitants include bison that were introduced in 1893 and now form a herd of approximately 600. The herd is called by an annual bison roundup in October. On our daily treks, we also encountered numerous antelope that were grazing on grasses on the hillsides. The island and surrounding lake offer a key stopover for hundreds of species of migratory birds. Some of the species include eared grebes, Franklin gulls, and various waterfowl. Near our campsite, we saw predatory action in progress as a fox was stalking antelope, only to be disturbed by an unruly Homo sapien that we will refer to as Princess. Despite anticipation of a jackalope sighting, we were unsuccessful in our efforts. Brine shrimp and brine flies are the most abundant species located near the shore and in the salty water.
The Great Salt Lake is the largest natural lake west of the Mississippi River. It is a remnant of prehistoric Lake Bonneville. It is currently 75 miles long by 28 miles wide and covers about 1,700 square miles. It is very shallow, with a maximum depth of 33 feet. The lake originally had no outlet, so the size and depth would vary greatly with small amounts of rainfall. From 1963 to 1986, the lake rose almost 20 feet and doubled in surface area. This was due to the record amounts of snow and rainfall in northern Utah. The rising lake flooded and closed the causeway to the mainland. Due to the property damages, man-made outlets have been constructed to prevent future floods. With concentrations 5 times saltier than the ocean, an increased density of the water in Great Salt Lake provides for easy buoyancy. It is extremely salty because of the water that collects in the lake, then evaporates, leaving behind minerals and salts. The salinity is too high to accommodate fish, although it has perfect conditions for brine shrimp and brine flies, which feed on the adapted algae living in the lake. There are over an estimated 100 billion brine shrimp in the lake. These organisms, along with brine flies, are the primary source of food for migrating birds. The flies live less than 1 week unless temperatures are low, producing black scum along the edges of the lake.
Antelope Island was very harsh in habitat, but has a diverse group of specially adapted organisms. Utah provided for the most unique and interesting learning experience of our lives. We will never forget the good times and knowledge gained in Utah.